Hi Year 10, Mr. Tapley here to walk you through your next lesson of Year 10 Geography in Term 2, Week 9. This lesson I'll be introducing the CAT, our final assessment for Geography. It's a semester-based subject, and we thought we'd get rid of the exam at the end of the semester because you all have had a rough run with remote learning and we didn't want to overwhelm you with another assessment. So this is the last chance to demonstrate your understanding, to flex your muscles, and based on how you guys went with the dev task, I think you'll be able to really do well in this assessment. So I'll go through the instructions in this video, I'll go through the rubric, I'll show you guys an example of what your CAT might look like that the teachers have put together. And yeah, if you have any questions or concerns, again, you can always email me, talk to me at Google Classroom, or hopefully I'll be able to tell you some of this information in person because this is scheduled for week 9 when we return to class. Still thought I'd make the video though, just for people who aren't there on that first lesson, or if you need a source of information after the first lesson. So anyway, and all this is located in Google Classroom. You can see I've made a nice little assessment task for you there. We can find the information and submit it at the end of the CAT, and I've also done the same in Compass, for those of you that are still having trouble with Google Classroom, like Mr. Tapley. Anyway, so before I go through the instructions in detail, I think I'll just show you an example. I'll show you what it looks like, so your finished product, basically. So the CAT is on environmental change, obviously, because that's been our topic for all of Term 2, and the CAT itself is a Google Slides presentation. It's not one that you actually have to present in front of the whole class. You don't have to worry about your speech. It's just 10 to 12 slides on different aspects of environmental change. You pick a topic, you can work individually or in pairs. You get 3 to 4 lessons of class time to work on this. So I think you should be able to manage this pretty well. But again, if you have concerns about this, please tell me before the end of the CAT. So I'll go through the example. One of the topics that you have available for the CAT is invasive species, so animals, wildlife that have been brought to Australia from somewhere else, and they're causing problems. They're causing change because they're not from here, they're foreign to the environment, like Mr. Tapley. So this presentation, this example, is looking at feral horses, which are not originally from Australia. They're brought over, and as a result, they are changing the environment. So you can see it starts off with 2 or 3 slides on, well, what is the problem? What environmental change are you looking at? So you've got some background information on feral horses. You've got information on what is the cause of that environmental change. So what is the cause of air pollution? What is the cause of climate change? Those are some of the other topics you can look at. After that, I'm showing you where the environmental change is located. So a nice little map here. PQE paragraph. We love our PQE in geography. I've got a tattoo of it on my neck. When the change is occurring, so you're looking at how this environmental change has occurred over time. Again, you've got a graph and then some summary information there. What are the consequences of this environmental change? So looking at how it's impacting the environment, consequences for the environment, but not just the environment, you'll also look at how it's impacting humans, so trying to connect it back to human well-being. So how does climate change or invasive species impact the environment, and then how does that impact humans as well, because it's all connected. And then we finish strong with a couple of solutions to the problem, some management strategies either to address this or address it in the future. So that's what it looks like, guys. I'm hoping that this is less scary than all of this information. That's why I started with the example, just to show you that, oh, it's actually like a couple of slides for all these different dot points. That's easy. I can do that easily. So I'll go through this now. So your assessment requires you to research and report on an example of environmental change, and then explain how these changes are being managed. So you select one of the following topics. First one we've already looked at was invasive species. In Australia we've got cane toads, we've got red foxes, rabbits, lots of different types of animals that are causing environmental change, probably for the worse, that you can look at for that topic there. Topic 2, air pollution and climate change. We've done a lot of that in class, so I think you're pretty familiar with that topic. Wildlife trade, we haven't looked at that in great detail. You can also see that some of these topics are specific to Australia and some are kind of global issues. So for wildlife trade, you could look at, for example, how the environment is being changed, how biodiversity is being impacted by illegal whaling, or by shark fin soup, or in Africa you could look at the ivory trade, so poaching of elephants and rhinoceroses. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, land degradation in Australia looks at how our land quality is decreasing over time as a result of human activities. So it's becoming harder for us to farm, to grow food, to live, basically. Biodiversity loss in Australia looks at how our wildlife, our animals and plants are slowly decreasing in their variety. So you could look at the Great Barrier Reef and how that's been impacted by climate change, by human activities. And then the last one, a example of environmental change is natural disasters, and climate change is causing natural disasters like bushfires to be more common and more intense. Extreme weather is more common as a result of climate change, and we saw all of that in the 2020 Australian bushfires. So you could look at that as an example of environmental change. So those are topics there, guys, and if you have other topics that you would like to investigate, that's fine. All I ask is that you let me know first, so that I can give you that Mr. Tapley tick of approval, because I don't want you to pick a topic and then realize just before you're supposed to submit the CAT, like, oh, there's not enough information here. So we've tried to come up with a few topics that we've looked at, and a few that there's lots of information available either in the textbook or out in the big wide world. So if you want to pick a different topic, just let me know. Cool. So as I said, the task may be completed individually or in pairs. You'll be researching that topic in class, and then recording that research in a Google Slides presentation. We thought the Google Slides was the way to go because it was originally we planned for this CAT to be done while y'all were at home, remote learning, and Google Slides has a lot of cool functions where you can both work on the same file at the same time if you're working in pairs or if you're working individually. Mr. Tapley can see what you're doing and offer feedback, offer advice while you're working. So yeah, it's not a test, it's not an essay. Hopefully this is a manageable assessment for the end of term 2. So the CAT rubric outlines I've called them subtopics. They're basically just little bullet points, slide titles, whatever you want to call them. It outlines the different subtopics you will need to cover in your assessment. I encourage you, I emphasize, I recommend, I advise, I plead, please read the rubric before, during, and after completing your assessment. I had so many kids in year 10 last year, I had so many kids, year 11, year 12, who do not read the rubric until they've got their grades back. They're like, what the hell? I needed a bibliography for this? That's insane. It's supposed to be read before your assignment, so you can say, okay, what do I need for this CAT? During your assignment, so you can see, am I ticking all the boxes? Have I done everything right? And then before you're submitting it, you edit it, you revise, you double check. Make sure, have I done everything on the rubric, and have I done it to a very high quality? So you can see what you're being assessed on, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those different titles or subtopics, whatever you want to call them, are all connected to this stuff here that I'll be reading through. So if you don't understand any of this, or if you don't understand the rubric, please let me know before you submit the CAT, so I can help you out. I can't help you unless you let me know there's a problem. So look at these different subtopics here. That's what you'll be putting into your CAT and what you saw in the example. If you're doing this as a pair, I encourage you to maybe divide and conquer. So maybe Jono looks at slide 1, and Timmy looks at environmental impact. Anyway, the actual subtopics, so what you'll be putting into your presentation. The first 2 or 3 slides are just going to be kind of introducing the problem, so environmental change, so the changes that have occurred, and then the causes of these changes. So that's probably 2 or 3 slides there. The next topic you're looking at is where and when. So location, so illustrate where these changes have occurred, and then how these changes have progressed over time. And how you'll do that is by using a map. So in this section you will need to include a map that shows the different regions impacted by the environmental change. And depending on what topic you're doing, if you're doing like the Australian bushfires, obviously you don't need a map of the world. So you can look at a local or a national or a global map, depending on your topic. And then you can use a graph or another map to illustrate how this change has progressed over time. So for example, you could use a graph demonstrating how carbon dioxide levels have changed over time, or a map showing how the spread of feral horses has changed over the last 10 years, something like that. The third little subtopic that you'll be looking at is the actual impact, so the consequences of these changes. What is the impact to the environment is 3A, and then also to humans. So how does it impact our human well-being? So 2 to 3 slides there. And then finally, environmental management. So explain the different management strategies that have been implemented to manage or address these changes. And that's going to be 1 to 2 slides there. So, also important to note, as I mentioned earlier, this assessment will need to include a bibliography. So you're looking at least 4 sources of information there. So if you're working in pairs, that's 2 websites, 2 articles, 2 chapters of the textbook each. So it's hardly, we're not asking for too much, I don't think. If you disagree, just let me know. Submission details. So there'll be 3 to 4 in-class lessons provided to complete the CAT. So I'll be introducing the CAT in week 9, and then we'll be completing the CAT in week 10. At the end of the first research lesson, you need to inform your teacher of the topic and group members. So if you're doing it individually or in pairs, if you're doing one of those 6 topics I included at the top, or if you've got your own topic, I need to know that by the end of the first lesson so that I can tick you off and make sure you're on track for the next lesson. To complete the CAT effectively and efficiently, you are encouraged to use the collaborative features of Google Slides to complete the CAT as a team, not 2 individuals. So before beginning your CAT, maybe communicate with your mates, plan out your research, and then divide the workload. As anyone who has been to university can tell you, group assignments are the worst. Not because you're working as a group, but often because you're not working as a group. So I'm hoping that you guys are actually going to talk to each other and work together to get this CAT done, because it's no worse feeling in the world than doing a group assignment and someone isn't doing anything, or someone's doing the opposite thing of what they should be doing. So make sure you're talking to each other to solve these problems before they become problems. So the final due date for your CAT is the 19th of June. So as I mentioned, I'll be introducing the CAT in week 9, so it'll be June 9th, I believe it is, right after Queen's birthday. You'll have all of the lessons of week 9 to work on it, and then most of the lessons of week 10. We do actually not have school on the 19th, you have a student-free day, so hopefully you can get that done before the 19th, but if you can't, you won't be at school, so you've got no excuse to get distracted by your silly maths homework or your economics homework or whatever subjects you young people do. Anyway, if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know. And you can see at the bottom, I've included a couple of websites to help you out, some support resources to get you started on your research, and I've tried to do one for each of the different topics. I'll show you those now. So you've got one on invasive species, one on air pollution, which has a nice little video. This one was my favorite, I think. Look at all these different tabs. Outstanding. One on wildlife trade. Land degradation. Nice little PDF here that goes through. Nice map there. Boom. Biodiversity. It's got little chapters. And the bushfires. So that's all the information for the CAT in terms of the CAT instructions. The CAT example is there for you to look at when you need to. The CAT rubric I want you to look at, I demand that you look at, but I won't explain it in the video because it'll take me too much time, so instead I'll explain that in class, but I'm going to leave this here as the last part of the video so you're forced to actually see that it does exist. But basically you're just being assessed on those 4 subtopics that I went over in the instructions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's what you're being assessed on. And then also how does it look overall, so presentation, have you got just massive walls of text that are just unreadable? Have you got some nice visuals that are engaging, make the presentation look nice? And then also the bibliography. So have you just kind of written down Wikipedia in crayon, or have you got a nice list of resources, or have you got a fully legit bibliography with at least 4 sources? It's all cited properly.